It was Monday night and nearly 8:30. I'd spent the night working on a project, which still needed much more work, in my home office. I was done for the night, so I walked into the dark kitchen, opened the fridge, and took out a favorite Indian pale ale. As I looked out of the kitchen window, I was able to see Joy curled up on our outdoor couch, which was located beside the fire pit and pool. She was tucked into a corner, with her feet folded under her bottom, and talking on her cell phone. As I was about to walk out and join her, I noticed she was twirling a strand of her blonde hair with a finger in her right hand. It was a gesture that I knew, well, because she'd absent-mindedly twirl her hair whenever we had love talks. Without a doubt, it was an unconscious habit that I'd admired since we met nearly 30 years ago. I'd come to realize that the gesture wasn't sexual. It was much more special than that. During our decades together, I'd come to think of her habit as soulful. Whenever we were closest, Joy would twirl her hair. I frequently traveled for business and would call home nightly. When the kids were young, I'd gladly spend an hour on the phone as it was passed between my loving wife and kids. There were many times when I knew Joy was twirling her hair with a finger of her right hand as we talked. The thought always made me warm inside and made the lonely nights away from home bearable. I continued to watch Joy through the window as she smiled and occasionally laughed. As I watched, there were times I could tell that Joy was flirting. She was too far away to see the familiar twinkle in her eyes, but I knew it was there. I noticed how comfortable she was as she talked and continued to twirl her hair. She was so radiant. She glowed. My normally quick mind went numb as I realized my wife was talking to someone special. Someone too special. I watched for almost 45 grueling minutes as my wife had a secret love talk with someone else. After the call had finally ended, I watched as a dreamy smile appeared at the corners of her mouth. I was in a deep, aching trance when I went into our family room, turned on the TV, and watched the local baseball team in action as Joy eventually made her way into the house. When she saw me sitting alone in the family room, she asked, "How long have you been done with your work?" "A while," I replied. "Why didn't you join me in the backyard?" she questioned. "You were on the phone, so I didn't want to interrupt." "Oh, for heaven's sake, I was talking to Steve. We were making some decisions concerning the Phillips account," she answered. "Like I said, I didn't want to interrupt." I hadn't taken my eyes off of the game while we talked, but I felt Joy's eyes trying to bore a hole into me. Joy soon moved to the kitchen but came back a minute later with a fresh glass of wine. She sat at the edge of the couch, which was immediately to the right of my recliner, and asked, "What's the score?" she asked. "I don't have a clue." Joy chuckled. "Do you at least know who the Sox are playing?" she asked. "The Blue Jays." We watched the game for half of an inning before they went to a commercial break. That was Joy's cue to resume talking. "Let's have the kids over for a barbecue on Saturday," she asked. "Sounds good," I answered. Joy spent the next few minutes in a very one-sided conversation until she asked, "Chris, what's wrong?" she questioned. "Nothing." "You aren't saying much tonight. That's not like you," she asked. "I have a lot on my mind," I answered. "Is there anything you'd like to talk about?" she asked. "No," I replied. The quiet lasted for a full inning. When a commercial break started, Joy jumped up from the couch and, with practiced ease, pulled her blue V-neck t-shirt over her head. She had a huge grin on her face as she offered, "How about turning off the TV and meeting me upstairs? I'm sure I can work your stress away." "No thanks, Joy. I'm not in the mood tonight," I answered. Her grin got bigger as she reached between my legs. "Come on, big boy, Mama needs you," she echoed. I looked into Joy's eyes. "What don't you understand about I'm not in the mood tonight?" I roared. "What the hell's the matter with you? I'm only trying to be nice," she answered. "Joy, you turn me down for intimacy at least twice a week. If I turn you down once a year, you whine like a 4-year-old. Grow up and leave me alone," I replied angrily. If looks could kill, I would have been an overcooked pork loin. Joy gave me a disgusted look before she turned and left the room. For the first time during our marriage, I slept in the guest room. Well, I laid on the guest room bed. And I planned. When the bedroom clock read 3 o'clock in the morning, I knew it'd be less than worthless to remain in bed. So, I got up, showered in the kids' old bathroom, and sneaked into the master bedroom for my clothes. The first part of my plan was easy. Before leaving for work, I downloaded a tracker app into Joy's personal and business phones and synced them to my laptop and iPhone. I arrived at work with 2 large Dunkin' Donut coffees and a sleep-deprived headache. Surprisingly, it was a fairly productive day. It was imperative that I put the finishing touches on my presentation before leaving early the next morning for a quick 2-day trip. Tuesday night was more than a bit frosty at home. I slept in my bed, but there was very little talk and no intimacy. I left the house early the next morning for the second day in a row, but that time I went to the airport for a 7:20 flight. Wednesday afternoon was productive, and I was able to close the gap on several key points with our client. I was confident I'd leave with a signed contract the following morning. I'd checked Joy's location every few hours and was relieved that she was either at home or work. But at the same time, I knew, in my gut, Joy was having an affair. That night, I ate an early dinner at the Marriott Lounge before checking on Joy's location. Again, at 7:30, she was somewhere new. Joy was at an address in an upscale neighborhood located in a town several miles from our home, her boss's home. It appeared that she'd stayed Tuesday night and drove to work from Steve's home the next morning. The next few months were stressful, but surprisingly quick. As we survived at home, Joy tried to aggressively worm her way back into my good graces. I was pleasant and non-confrontational, but I kept my distance. The few times we did have love, it was simply functional. It's always good to get your rocks off. By tracking Joy, I'd learned that she'd confined her affair to times when I'd traveled. After my second business trip, I installed 4 video cameras around our home, 1 each in the kitchen, family room, guest room, and master bedroom. The only thing I learned was that after I left the house for a trip, Joy would pack enough clothes to stay at Steve's home for the duration of my trip. I was recommended to a family law attorney by our company attorney. Since our kids were grown and out of the house, our divorce would be a simple 50-by-50 split. Though it was doubtful a private investigator would be able to get any video or pictures because we couldn't invade the privacy of Steve Miller's home, it was recommended that I hire a private investigator to document Joy's living arrangements while I was out of town. However, as smart as cheaters might think they are, most do stupid things. My private investigator discovered that Joy and Steve enjoyed intimacy outside in his secluded backyard. I had pictures of Steve loving Joy while she sat on the edge of his pool and all over the backyard. I had many photos of my cheating wife doing things whitey him that she won't do for me. Other than my boss and personal assistant, everyone at work thought I was on a business trip. I'd left home early Wednesday morning and had breakfast in town. After the app showed me Joy had left for work, I started for home. For 2 solid days, I neatly packed and sealed cardboard boxes with everything that belonged to Joy. Friday morning was going to be D-Day, but first, I had to make 3 very difficult phone calls on Thursday evening. Our 3 kids ranged in age from 22 to 27. The youngest had recently graduated from college and was a first-year kindergarten teacher. The older 2 were also college grads and also professionally employed. Each call was similar in its grotesqueness. I cried with my kids and assured them I loved them, but I was going to divorce their mother. When each stated I was going too far, I asked, "Do you want me to send you a video of your mother in her lover's backyard?" They all declined. Thankfully. Joy picked up during the 4th ring. "Hi, hon. This is an unexpected surprise. How are your meetings?" she asked. "Hi, love. Meetings are meetings. You know how it goes." "How is work?" I asked. "I'm so happy it's Friday because I can't wait for you to get home. It's been a long, lonely week. I'm hoping we can do a little making up. Maybe a whole weekend's worth," she answered. I immediately noticed that Joy didn't answer my question about work, so I surmised she'd become a practiced liar during the last few months. Joy continued. "So, what do I owe the pleasure of this call?" she asked. "Well, I have a question for you. It may sound weird, but I'd like an answer," I answered. "It must be important because you rarely call during the day." "What's the question?" she asked. "Do you like my smile?" I questioned. "Do I like your smile? What kind of question is that?" "You know I love your smile," she answered. "Yes, you've told me that many times. In fact, it was the first thing you ever said to me. Remember that night at the frat party? You broke away from your posse of girls, came up to me and said, 'You've got a great smile.'" Next, I noticed an edge in Joy's voice. "Chris, what's this about? I'm concerned. I've made a purposeful effort, whenever possible, to be positive, to be happy. It's been a challenge at times, but living with the love of my life and my best friend, along with 3 amazing children, has made it worth the effort," I answered. "Of course I agree. It's one of the many things, I adore about you. I love your smile, and I love your positive disposition. What I love best is that you're able to remain masculine, a man's man, with that gorgeous smile plastered on your handsome face," Joy answered. I let out a loud sob. I couldn't help it. Despite the lies and recent destructive behavior, I knew she loved me. I knew without a doubt that my bride loved me. There was an urgency, which I knew well when Joy demanded. Christopher Harrington, what is going on?" she asked. After I didn't immediately answer, Joy pleaded, "Please, tell me. I want to help. What's happened?" The love and concern in her voice were real. She loved me as much as she ever had, and that's what made what I was about to do so difficult. "It's just, I'm not sure if I'll ever smile again." Tick-tock, tick-tock. I counted 20 seconds. I'm sure Joy had a million jumbled thoughts rolling around in her head. But as the seconds passed, I suspected she slowly came to the logical conclusion that I might know. "You're scaring me, Chris. Please, talk to me," she pleaded. "Unfortunately, Joy, too much damage has occurred, so therefore, it's far too late to talk," I replied. "Don't say that, honey. Don't say it and never think it. It's never too late for us to talk." "But it is too late. Any talk, any discussion has to be based on love, trust, and respect. I know you love me, Joy. I know it. And I love you too. And I always will. That's what makes this so hard, but I no longer trust you. And I know you don't respect me." Joy started to speak, but I talked over her. "You can't possibly respect me." With an edge in my voice, I said, "Joy, come to the front living room window. Come to the—" "Christopher, what are you talking about?" she asked. I repeated, "Joy, I asked you to come to the front living room window." Joy started. "I don't—" "Joy, get up from the poolside lounge chair, walk through the back door into Steve's kitchen, and walk through the house until you get to the front living room window." I heard Joy's screams of disbelief. "Oh, God! Oh, no! He knows, Steve! Oh, God! Chris knows!" I waited until I saw Joy's presence through the window. She was standing next to a second person, who I assumed was Steve Miller, her lover, her boss, the house owner, and the managing partner of Patterson, Miller & Lewis, an accounting firm. Because of the sun's glare on the window, it was impossible for me to see much more than movement and shadows. I was about 75 feet down his long driveway, so I was sure they easily saw me standing in the open floor-to-ceiling back door of a small U-Haul box truck. I'd opened it before I called Joy. When Joy and Steve were in place, I jumped back into the truck's cab, shifted into reverse, and pressed down on the accelerator. The truck lurched backward and then gained momentum. As I approached the large turnaround area at the front of the house, I jammed on the brakes. All of Joy's clothes, accessories, possessions, and treasures, which I'd spent 2 days neatly packing in 48 large cardboard boxes, flew out of the back of the truck and rolled over Steve's driveway and lawn. After shifting the transmission into park, I jumped from the truck and surveyed the mess. The lighter boxes, with clothes, remained somewhat intact and would be easy to clean up. However, the heavier boxes, such as the two with Joy's great-grandmother's china, were destroyed. Pieces from the 18-place settings were broken and scattered all over the driveway. Joy and Steve had moved from the living room to the front step of the house. Joy was wearing the bikini I had bought her for our 25th anniversary cruise only 2 years prior. Although she still had a stunning body, she wouldn't wear the thong bottom during the cruise. She only wore it while sunning in the privacy of our backyard pool area, and for Steve was covered with a robe. Joy looked on in horror. She'd covered her open-mouthed face with her hands, and she was breathing heavily. Steve was usually an alpha, but that morning he looked far less intimidating. They hadn't noticed the strange car parked next to Joy's Mercedes SUV. The process server jumped from her car and, within a few steps, was standing in front of them. As she handed Joy a large, yellow, legal-size envelope, she announced, "Joy Harrington, you are served." Then, she used her iPhone to take a picture of Joy before pivoting towards Steve. "Stephen Miller, you and Patterson, Miller, and Lewis are served." She handed Steve a similar envelope, took a picture of him, returned to her car, and took off. No one moved or said anything for a few moments. I considered jumping into the U-Haul and leaving, but decided to say a few more words. Although I knew, without a doubt, Joy would fight any divorce proceedings to the bitter end, I wanted her to be aware of my state of mind. I called out over the many feet that separated us. At a minimum, I hope we can all agree that I deserve better than a lying, cheating woman for a wife. Joy groaned before, after a few more beats, I continued. "Steve, call my attorney and make a very, very generous offer, or I'll do my best to destroy you and your firm. Joy, just sign the papers. We're through." I turned, jumped into the truck, and lumbered out of her life. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.